I hope you enjoyed that little changing of the guard. I'm so happy we're finally giving this poor abused clothing rack a little bit of relief. This is about half of the clothing that was on there before. Also, that was my arm workout for the next month. I wish I were joking, but my arms are actually sore after that. In my defense, it was a lot of clothes. Anyway, welcome to the grand finale. If you are new, I apparently spent my 2025 in a sewing psychosis. A so-cosis, if you will. That was not my best joke. That was probably one of the most dad jokes I've ever made. But if I ever have merch, that will probably be on a t-shirt. Anyway, somehow over the course of the past year, I made over 90 pieces of clothing. And in this little mini-series, I have been going over everything I have made. I have talked about the process of sewing, the sewing patterns I used, giving little tidbits about where I've worn these, and I have also been showing you all of the mistakes that I made along the way. So if you are interested in the rest of the series, in part 1, I went over all of the matching sets that I made. In part 2, I covered tops, bottoms, outerwear, and my knitting projects. And now, in this, our grand finale, Return of the King, if you will, we are covering all of the dresses that I made. I do have 33 dresses on this rack to go over. If you're new here and you want to see everything that I made, I do encourage going to check out those other videos. However, you do not have to watch them in any particular order, so feel free to stick around and watch this one first. Unlike Return of the King, you do not need any of the previous installments to grasp exactly what is going on here. And if you have been with me through this entire journey, thank you. You are seen, you are appreciated. We've been through a lot together. And unlike The Rise of Skywalker, let's give this series the ending it deserves. Actually, at that point in the franchise, it kind of did deserve that movie, but we're just gonna ignore that, okay? And even though this is the final video of this particular trilogy, I will be posting update videos throughout the year, recapping all of my sewing projects for each season. I also post a lot of sewing vlogs. If you've watched my sewing vlogs, you will recognize some of these dresses. So if that interests you, feel free to subscribe. I would love to have you around here. Anyway, let's get into my brutal review of all of the dresses that I made this past year. Should be fun. We are starting off with my most used fabric this year. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you probably know I am a secondhand girly. I love going to the thrift store, and honestly, aside from these, and I think 2 other exceptions, everything on this rack was made from materials I bought at the thrift store. You can tell I was a victim of the polka dot craze this past year, and I still am, honestly. I walked into Goodwill the other day and I found a full bed sheet of brown polka dot sheets. Oh yeah, I bought the whole thing, and I cannot wait to get making out of it. But anyway, this is a knit fabric that I bought at Hobby Lobby. I know I've talked a bit about it in previous installments, but I love a polka dot. I think that it's so classy, but also so playful. And I think you can see in these, and links to all of these sewing patterns will be in the video description. Would you believe me if I told you that I sewed this dress 2 hours before I had to leave on a flight? I mean, if you watched my Fall Wardrobe Essentials Part 2 video, then probably yes, because you saw me in a panic, adrenaline-fueled state actually doing that. But outside of that, I don't think that you would guess. This is, shoot, I forgot the name of it. This is the Marsha Dress by Vicky Sews. I made this because every Thanksgiving, my family flies up to Ohio to spend it with our northern dwelling side of the family. And every Thanksgiving Eve, we go out to eat for lunch, typically to a winery. So I wanted an outfit that, you know, could kind of withstand the cold. Obviously, I was wearing a coat over this, but I wanted a dress that was warmer, but also still looked very elegant. And this was the perfect dress for that occasion. I say this all the time, but I really stand by it. I think that so often it's the little details that really elevate an outfit. So with this dress, there are 2 things that I think really make it stand out. One, obviously, is the little sweetheart neckline. I think that is so cute. That is such a special touch, and something that you really don't see too often on kind of colder weather garments. The other thing that I loved was the sleeves. They have just a little bit of subtle flair to them. I'd say the dress has almost a Morticia Addams vibe. Romantic, but kind of edgy. A little slinky and quietly dramatic. Now, unfortunately, we ended up going to a brewery, which is fine. Obviously, they have good food there and everything. However, I made this dress intending to wear it to a winery. I was not intending to wear it to a place where they sell cereal milk beer. Slightly different atmosphere. Did not quite match the vibe. but it's fine. I'm so glad that I have this dress in my closet now. And like I said, it was a very easy project. I did technically complete it in 2 hours, but because I am owning up to my mistakes. While we were in Ohio, I did have to wear a belt with this because the waistline in the pattern didn't quite match up to where my actual waistline was. It made me look like I had more hips or like my hips were higher than they actually were. So once we got back from Ohio, I did have to take this dress in to make it actually fit correctly. The other thing that I did goof up on because I was in a hurry, which you should not do, you should give yourself time when you're making clothing, but I really wanted this for the trip. And I wasn't procrastinating, but I just simply did not have time to make it before. So according to the pattern, you are supposed to add some fusible interfacing around the neckline. And there are a lot of reasons why interfacing is a good idea in general, especially around areas that have a lot of wear. It sort of helps them keep their shape. However, because I was in a hurry, I wasn't really following the directions and I did skip that part. It wasn't even on purpose. I just figured with a knit, I could figure out how to sew it together. So I just didn't really look at the directions. And I think that if I had added fusible interfacing, particularly around the neckline, it would help it keep its shape a little bit more. Unfortunately, it is kind of struggling. It does kind of keep falling, but I feel like honestly, it's not like super noticeable. I still feel like it does have that beautiful sweetheart shape. And because I used the same fabric for the lining as the main fabric, it doesn't bother me. I think that it still looks really good, but I am planning to make this again. I actually want to make it in the same fabric, but just make a top. So I will add the fusible interfacing, and I think that is going to make for a much cleaner and more stable neckline. But I do still think that it looks so chic and gorgeous, and I feel amazing when I wear it. So it's not the end of the world. But yeah, if I could go back in time, that is one thing that I would change. The next dress that I made with this fabric was the Sia Dress, also by Vicky Sews. So I made this black polka dot version, which I actually wore for my husband's birthday brunch this past year. I just find that I get so much use out of a simple fitted dress like this. This is one of those patterns that's so fun because the vibe can change so drastically depending on the fabric you use. I did also make this pastel floral version. Not for any occasion, actually. This was a toile, which I never do. I'm actually so proud of myself for actually making a toile. This is a fabric that I bought during Joann's going out of business sale. It was like a day or two before they closed. And so I bought a full bolt of this fabric for like cents, basically. I don't know if I'll ever use up all of this fabric. Honestly, I have 8 yards of it. This fabric is like the Fast and Furious franchise. I am convinced that the world could stop spinning on its axis and they will still be making more Fast and Furious movies. This is a well that will not run dry for many, many years, if ever, which is nice because I do really love this fabric, but I also have so much of it that it doesn't feel like a risk to use it as a toile or to experiment with it a little bit. I love a simple garment because I think that it can be so classy on its own, but it's also so easy to style up in a variety of ways. You can throw a denim jacket over it and sneakers and totally play it down. Or you can go with some nice jewelry and heels and wear it for a nice night out. It's truly so versatile. And this fits beautifully. I didn't have to make any adjustments to this pattern. I just feel so classy and pretty when I'm wearing it. Now, the final dress in our little black polka dot saga. This dress is actually a mishmash of patterns. So I made this into a little activewear dress. And the top portion is the Zoe tank by True Bias, which if you've watched my videos before, you probably know I am such a big fan of that pattern. It is such a pretty camisole style top. And the bottom section, so the skirt and short section, is from Nomi 2080 by Lindsay over at the Stitch Fits. Just one small adjustment I made. I think the pattern has a slit in the skirt and I didn't want that. So I think that I made the skirt just a little bit fuller. But I am obsessed with how this turned out. I have been wearing this so much. Actually, this past year, my husband and I decided to go to Epcot's Food and Wine Festival because I had not been to Epcot since I was a kid. And here's the thing, in my personal opinion, especially when I was a kid, Epcot wasn't really for kids. They didn't really have any rides. Like the different cultures and stuff were fun, but it just wasn't super exciting as a kid. And what I'd heard was that Epcot's more fun as an adult because you can eat more and you can drink. And so I wanted to go to Epcot as an adult to see if I actually liked it more. And honestly, still not my favorite Disney park. They do have the Guardians of the Galaxy ride now, and I did love that. And in like the science lab portion, they actually had pickle milkshakes, which I tried. Weirdly, I loved that milkshake, and I cannot describe it in a way that would make it sound good, but it was like a dill flavored milkshake. Again, I know that does not sound appealing. I don't know what to tell you. It's science. You're not meant to understand it. But anyway, I made this dress specifically for that, and it worked so perfectly. I wanted to do something in polka dots as a little bit of an homage to Minnie Mouse. It works great as a little activewear dress. This has gotten a lot of use. It will also be getting a lot more use in 2026. And I've already started making a little bit of a more ballerina inspired version of this. So hopefully I will be showing you that in a sewing recap in the near future. Next up, this is the Adeline Dress by Friedlies. And this was also my birthday dress last year. It was a lot of fun. I felt super cute. We went downtown and saw Wicked Part 1, which felt like a little bit of a full circle moment because for my 17th birthday, my dad took me to go see Wicked, the stage musical. Obviously, there was no movie then. I don't know if you can tell from my general energy, but I was a theater kid. So I just wanted a cute, kind of playful dress for my birthday. And I had this black and white polka dot bed sheet that I thought would be fun to pair with a solid black top. I added this little bow on the front. As you can see, it's a fun little bubble skirt. I paired it with some light blue accessories, sunglasses, purse, shoes. I've talked about this before, but I think that light blue is such an underrated and beautiful accent color when you're wearing a more neutral outfit. If I'm showing the try-on footage over this, you've already noticed that there's a mistake. Somehow I did manage to mess up the bubble skirt portion so that it looks like it's kind of twisted around. Unfortunately, in a weird way, not like a cute, creative way, which is a bummer because otherwise I think this dress is so stinking adorable. So that's one thing that I do actually need to fix before I feel like I can really wear this dress again. But overall, it was a fun birthday and I still felt very special and cute in this little dress. We have a very natural transition of fabrics that's been happening here. As you can tell, I am still very firmly in my polka dot era. And here's the light blue accent I talked about loving. So this is a maxi version of the Cora Dress by the Socialite. And kind of the interesting thing about this polka dotted pattern is you can see the polka dots are also in a little bit of a circle, which makes it almost look like an eyelet. You know, like it's a very eyelet pattern for a fabric to have. And when I think of eyelet fabrics, I typically think something very light and summery. And so I wanted to make a dress that matched that same feel. Although I did not make this dress in any of my YouTube videos. This mini Cora dress was a part of my Sewing an East Coast Summer wardrobe video. To me, this pattern just screams spring, summer. I love that it has almost a baby doll feel to it. I love that you can go a little bit more elegant with it, like I did with this maxi version, but you can also just go very cute and fun and playful, which I did with this rainbow plaid mini version. So like I said, this was in my Sewing an East Coast Summer wardrobe because I made this for my little family beach vacation to St. Simon's Island. If you've never been, it's such an adorable little coastal town. I don't know if you watched The Summer I Turned Pretty, but it has kind of that same East Coast summer feel to it. And so I was kind of trying to replicate that in the outfits that I made. I think that the colors in it are so gorgeous. I made it out of a tablecloth and it does feel like the perfect spring summer picnic to me. I added a little bit of scalloped lace around the edges of the neckline that I'm truly obsessed with. Again, I think this is such a good example of how you can use the same pattern to make two very different feeling dresses. And you can enhance that with the little details you add, like a bow or adding lace trim around the edges. Part of what I love about sewing is having the freedom and creativity to make things your own and to align it perfectly with your style and your vision. And a lot of that lives in the little details. All right, next up is a dupe that I made of a, I want to say like 230, 250, 60. But I made this based on a House of CBD. Oh my gosh. I did that in the video too. House of CB dress. I was scrolling the House of CB website. As I do, I like to look at pretty dresses that I can't afford. That's another hobby of mine. And I realized that one of the fabrics they used was very similar to this bed sheet. And so I decided to make my own more affordable version of it. And I made this out of a bed sheet that I found at the thrift store. For the base, I used the Gemma Dress by Lizzie Patterns, but I did do a fair bit of hacking to it in order to make it look like the House of CB inspiration. If you're interested in learning a little more about that, I do have a full video of me making this dress so you can follow along with the whole process. I think there's also some pretty cute footage of my dog in there. So that alone, I think, should be motivation to go watch that video. But yeah, overall, I am really happy with how it turned out. I think it looks a lot like the inspiration, and a lot of the differences I actually like better. So for example, the florals in the fabric that I used, although it's very similar, they're a lot brighter than the House of CB version and a lot more in a color palette that I enjoy. The House of CB dress also just had this big white bow in the middle of the dress that I wasn't a huge fan of, so I added a nice little pink bow to mine instead. Now, the areas where I think I could have done better. First off, the one area that does disappoint me is unfortunately the little ruffle around the shoulder. I should have made it longer. I don't know why I was playing so safe with it. I wish that I had gone a little bolder, a little more dramatic with that. It's just kind of small and useless now, like hard for it to lie very nicely because there is so little fabric there. And I think that if I had made it longer, it wouldn't be rolling to expose the lining as much. I would have to do so much seam ripping to go and fix it at this point, so I don't think that I will. The other thing, and this is just a heads up if you make this dress pattern, it is very cute and I do recommend it. However, where the floral part of the dress ends is how short the mini dress version of this dress is, which is very short. I was very glad I had like kind of a lining skirt underneath it because I definitely needed a few extra inches, especially in the back. Even as someone who loves a mini skirt, I would recommend extending it probably at least like 3 inches personally. Now, this is another version of the Gemma dress that I made. So this past year for our anniversary, my husband and I took a little trip to Miami, which was a lot of fun. But one of the things I was most excited to go check out was the Museum of Ice Cream. If you've never heard of it, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a museum dedicated to the history of ice cream. It is one of the cutest places you will ever go in your entire life. They have little playscapes scattered all throughout the museum. They have like a little arcade area and they have actual exhibits about the history of ice cream. So technically it is educational. You can learn things. And most importantly, they do have ice cream samples all throughout the museum, plus a little diner at the very end that is so stinking cute. So obviously, as with any sort of special occasion, I needed to make a dress for this. I mean, I wasn't gonna go and not take a million photos, obviously. So I thought that this dress would be a good little sort of combination of the traditional ice cream man outfit with the striped vest and the little bow tie, but also go so well with the very fun, feminine energy of the Museum of Ice Cream. Yes, everything there is pink, and it absolutely speaks to my Barbie loving soul. That's one of my favorite parts of sewing, is just getting to live my little bubblegum Barbie fantasy. Like I said, this is just another variant of the Emma dress, and this one definitely bears more resemblance to the actual pattern. There are just a few little details that I added to this one, like the pink ruffle at the bottom of the dress. That's technically an underskirt. And then I also put pink bias binding all around the top of the dress, just to really emphasize the pink. It's subtle, but I don't want you to miss the pink in it. I felt so stinking cute twirling through all of the different exhibits in this dress. My husband and I had so much fun. It really is such a magical place. If you ever have the opportunity to visit a museum of ice cream, I do recommend it. And I also recommend you make yourself a little outfit. It doesn't have to be like this one, but if you do go and make an outfit, like tag me, let me know. I would love to see it. Overall, no mistakes with this. However, I did somehow manage to get a little chocolate ice cream stain inside of it, but it's fine. It's on the inside. You can't see it. So you know, I know, it's just an extra souvenir from our trip. So all good. And if you're interested in making the Gemma dress for yourself, the House of CB Dupe dress that I made, technically all of the steps to make the Gemma dress are in there. I didn't really take anything away from the instructions. I just kind of added more steps and more complications to it. Up next is a little dress that I made for my cousin-in-law's Jane Austen tea party baby shower. I just hit like every keyword for all of the romance book girlies out there. I am one of you. Do I already have a plethora of baby doll sort of empire waist dresses? Yes, I'm literally wearing one right now. Do I ever let that stop me from making another one? Absolutely not. Listen, I stand by this. If a dress makes you feel like the heroine in a romance novel, you can never have too many. For the shower, I wanted to make something Regency inspired. Clearly, I was not going for historical accuracy, but I wanted something that kind of gave the impression of sort of an empire waist. Maybe not on the level of a Netherfeld ball, but, you know, maybe like I was taking a casual turn around Pemberley, hoping obviously not to run into the man whose proposal I had devastatingly turned down. How embarrassing would that be? So this is the Seashell Summer Dress by Daria Pattern Making. just with a couple of little differences to it. So the pattern does have a bow on the front of the dress, but it's at the bottom of the bodice, and I changed it. I added some little buttonholes so that it would be at the top of the bodice. And I believe the dress is also a mini dress, and I made it a maxi, which is obviously a very simple hack. So I did make a full video of making this dress. If you are a Jane Austen fan, I do believe that you will very much enjoy it. Unfortunately, that was one of my first videos, and for some reason, once I uploaded it to YouTube, I don't know how to describe it, but there's almost like a stereo effect to the audio. I tried everything. I couldn't figure out what the issue was. I finally realized this is a thing with the editing software. I think if you listen to it without earphones or with only one earphone, I don't think that it's as bad. But yeah, I am sorry about that. Like, trust me, I put a lot of work into that video. I'm more upset about the audio issues than anyone possibly could be. But if you can power through, I am very proud of that video. There's a lot of Jane Austen references and jokes that I think you'll enjoy if you can get past those issues. But anyway, this is such a dreamy dress for spring. This is another one that has so many beautiful details. I love the little bow at the front. I specifically wanted to do a pink ribbon to really bring out the bright pink and these roses. I also love the way these little ruffles go all around the neckline and even on the back of the dress. This is a favorite sewing pattern of mine, and I kind of want to make the mini dress this year. Maybe I'll do that this summer. But overall, I think this is such a gorgeous dress, and especially if you're into kind of like the baby doll or Regency look, I think this is a beautiful modern interpretation of it, and I highly recommend the pattern. Next, this is the Spaghetti Dream Frock by Lydia Naomi. And I know that her dream frock has been a well-loved pattern in the sewing community for a while, and I totally get why. It is such a beautiful milkmaid style dress. But because her pattern has been out for a while and it's been so well-loved, this is actually kind of an updated version that she put out using some of the hacks and suggestions from the sewing community. Isn't that so fun? I love when a pattern designer really listens to their audience. And so this was a newer version that she released this past year, and I was on the testing team for it. And you know that I was very excited about this sewing pattern because I used one of my good fabrics on it. Actually, I made another dress using this fabric that we'll get to in just a second. But there are so many things that I love about this pattern. I want to make a top version of this pattern. I think about it all the time. First of all, it's simply adorable. It is such a cute dress, and I feel so cute wearing it. To me, whether an outfit is good or not is all in how it makes you feel. If you feel adorable wearing an outfit, it's a good outfit. If you feel self-conscious, it's not. It's as simple as that. So you have this beautiful milkmaid gathered bust. You have this adorable little bow in the front. But some things that she changed about this version of the pattern. First off, it has an elasticized back, which I absolutely love. I'm such a huge fan of an elasticized back. And I think that also makes it easier to hack into a top. You don't have to worry about adding in a zipper or anything. This is such a refreshing and fun spring, summer kind of dress. I went with the straight skirt option, but I think she has more of a full gathered skirt option as well, if you prefer that. Like I said, this was one of my good fabrics. I think this is so cute. I love the bright pink roses and the little baby blue bows going all down it. For some reason, it brings up an image of like a Persian cat's needlepoint or something like that. Like, it feels kind of grandma core, but in a very cozy, not too old person-y way. I can't explain it. It's just the feeling that it gives me. It just feels kind of vintage and fun, but without being too over the top with it. And Lydia actually has a full video tutorial on this. It's very detailed. Her written instructions are also very good. So if you are a very adventurous beginner, you might be able to pull it off. And it is something that will absolutely stop people in their tracks when you told them that you made it. And it's just such a cute, fun dress. And next up, using the same thrifted bedsheet, is the Aurora Dress by Schultz Apparel. I feel like this is kind of the older sister of the Dream Frock. They definitely share DNA. They have the same sort of like little milkmaid inspiration, the same adorable cottagecore vibe. But the Aurora Dress, I think, is just a little bit more grown up. Still very cute, but not as cutesy. Not quite as attention-seeking, kind of casually elegant. I actually really, really wanted to make a red version of this around Christmas time and never got around to it. I was too busy spending time with family and junk like that. I'm kidding. Anyway, if you're a beginner, I actually do think that this is a great project for you. It doesn't require any zippers, nor does it require elastic. There's just a little tie in the back that you use to tie it. You do have to make buttonholes, but as long as you have a sewing machine that can handle that, you're fine. This is another sort of milkmaid style dress. I had to check because I couldn't remember if these were princess seams, and They are actually, at least in the front. In the back, because you have to add in the tie, I think that there's a bodice and a skirt portion. If you're new to sewing, a dress with princess seams is such a good place to start, in my opinion, because you're essentially just sewing panels together. There's not really any gathering. It's a very simple process. And I love how sophisticated this is. Truly just such a beautiful dress. If you know me, you know that I love an interesting sleeve. I've talked about this ad nauseum. If you've watched any of the previous parts, you've already heard this, and I'm so sorry for you. But I really do think that adding an interesting sleeve is such an easy and effective way to completely change a garment. And in my opinion, it never fails to elevate a garment from something that might feel basic to something that is really special and memorable. And so you can only imagine how quickly I clicked add to cart when I saw this dress, and very specifically this sleeve. This is the Amelia Dress by Friedleys, and I think this is one of the funnest, most unique sleeves I've ever come across. I love a multiple puff sleeve. You will see another dress that has multiple puffs in a single sleeve, but I think this double puff sleeve is such a fun little accent, such a playful little detail. It's kind of funny because it is so voluminous. I feel that it almost gives the dress kind of an 80s prom dress look, but personally, I'm not mad about it. So I made this for kind of like the first day of spring. This was a tablecloth that I found at the thrift store, and no real mistakes with this dress, but I will say it is a good example of why I typically don't like to sew with thrifted tablecloths, because a lot of times they tend to be kind of a looser weave and they do fray very easily. So you can see on the facing here, like I did finish all of the edges, so I'm not worried that the dress itself is going to come undone, but there are a lot of loose threads that keep kind of popping up, which is annoying. And I could add, I forget what it's called, but they do have kind of a glue that stops your edges from fraying that I probably should add to the edges of this just so I can stop dealing with all of the loose threads. Maybe I'll get around to that. Aside from the sleeves, this is such a simple sort of A-line mini dress. It just has such a sweet feminine vibe to it. I also made a matching bow with this dress, which I think kind of contributes to the 80s look. Because, you know, I feel like quintessential 80s, you have kind of like big sleeves and then you have a big bow on the back of the dress. Mine's in my hair, but I do think that it kind of gives 80s prom in the best way, in my opinion. I enjoy it. I get a lot of fun out of wearing it, so no complaints here. I want to say that this dress was controversial. It really wasn't, unfortunately. This is the Sharon Dress by Vicky Sews, and it is one of my most used patterns. I've used it to make a Miss Frizzle costume. I've used it to make a Baby Yoda dress. I've used it to make a top for a Ravenclaw student outfit when we went to Universal. And I don't plan to stop. I love a pattern that can be versatile, either by putting your own little twist on it or, you know, just by making the top or making a skirt. That's part of why I love investing in dress patterns, because I think that you can get so much more mileage out of them just by hacking them and using them in slightly different ways. So you may recognize this dress if you watched my Fall Wardrobe Essentials Part 1 video. I really wanted a plaid collared mini dress, and I found a lot of inspiration pics on Pinterest, but I really wanted to use this green gingham with these little florals all over it. So I posted a poll on my Instagram story before I finished the dress and before I published the video, just kind of asking like, hey, do you think this fabric looks more like a spring floral or a fall floral? And quick plug, I do really enjoy posting an Instagram poll whenever I'm being indecisive. And so if you want to go check me out on there at Ali_behind the seams. But unfortunately, most of the time when I post a poll, it ends up being pretty 50-50. Most of the time, there'll only be like maybe a 3% difference between the options that I put up until like maybe like the last 2 hours of the poll is when one will start kind of pulling away. So I posted a poll being like, hey, do you think this is a spring or fall floral? It was the most definitive and resounding answer that I have ever gotten on an Instagram poll. And the answer was no, it is a spring floral. Which is fair. I get it. I can't argue. And this is another thrifted bedsheet. I love this soft green of the gingham. I also love these little purple and yellow and orange flowers. I kind of accented it, as you can see, by adding these purple flower buttons. I'm so happy with it. I think that it is so cute, and I do really love wearing it with my little white go-go boots. I do have to agree, it does read much more spring-like than fall-like, but I do still think that it's such a dainty, charming little dress. And maybe in 2026, I'll make a little bit more of a fall-ish mini dress. This is the Audrey Dress by Vicky Sews. And to me, this pattern reads as such a fun, sort of 60s inspired mod kind of dress. This is another one that is very simple. It has kind of an A-line skirt, a square neckline, simple bodice, simple construction. But another reason that I often like very simple dress patterns is because I'm someone who is very drawn to color and pattern. And so a lot of times I want that to kind of be the shining focal point of whatever outfit that I'm making. And let me tell you, I am in love with this green plaid. I actually very much wanted to make a matching blazer for the fall, and I never got around to it. But this, I think, is more of a spring green anyway, so maybe I will make it in the spring. But this has been just such a fun little mini dress to wear with my little white go-go boots, and especially when I wear it with go-go boots, it looks so 60s inspired, which is simply my favorite fashion decades, kind of late 60s to like mid 70s. And I love that this is a modern pattern that really is so timeless and kind of embodies that, but in a way that doesn't come across as dated or outrageous in any way at all. Okay, I actually feel a little bit bad showing you this next pattern, although I shouldn't, because I've actually been showing you this pattern in every single iteration of this little trilogy, because this is actually the dress pattern that I'm wearing right now. I used it over the summer to make this dreamy little halter top dress. So I was at Goodwill when I saw this bedsheet, and immediately I had to buy it. I love the colors in it so much. The orange flowers with the mint green background is just so completely my vibe. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to go into it. But in terms of color season analysis, I'm fairly confident that I'm a light spring. And so not only is this in my technically correct color palette, but it's just my favorite colors. Like I said, I do think that I am a light spring, but honestly, even if I wasn't, I think that I would be wearing light spring colors anyway, because that's just what I like. And so I decided to make this sort of beachy halter top dress to wear, I mean, theoretically on vacation, but technically since I live in Florida, I do kind of live on a beach vacation, so it works year round, actually. I think this pattern works so beautifully with this fabric to really accent and let the big, bold flowers shine. But at the same time, it has such an effortless and beachy feel that is so charming. Now, the reason why I feel bad even showing you this pattern is because, unfortunately, the pattern designer does not sell this anymore. I'm also heartbroken about it. I talked about this pattern in my favorite sewing patterns video, and the designer messaged me and was like, you know what? For you, I might bring the pattern back. I was like, hey, no pressure. You do whatever's right for you. But also, if you ever do bring the pattern back, just know I am already its #1 hype girl. So we'll see. If she ever does bring it back, it is the Fiore dress by Natsab AU. Also goes by Natalie Made This on Instagram. So if you ever see that in the description, this is that dress. Also, this is that dress. But if she doesn't, I think that you can use the Daphne dress by Sewing Mason actually as a fairly simple hat. I think the main difference would just be, instead of attaching the back skirt to the bodice, just running an elastic through it and kind of keeping an open back. And then obviously, instead of puff sleeves, you can just do like some bow sleeves or whatever you want. RIP Fiore dress pattern. If you never come back, just know that you are missed. Okay, I kind of briefly mentioned in part 2 that for me, the sewing process always begins with the fabric. Typically, I'll be at the thrift store, I'm sifting through the bed sheet section, and some fabric bed sheet catches my eye for some reason. Either I really love the pattern, I love the color, and generally I try not to buy a fabric unless I have a vision for what I want to make out of it. But sometimes I come across a fabric that is so beautiful and so striking, and that I know is going to be absolutely incredible. And I just let it sit in my fabric hoard for a little while until it speaks to me and tells me what it wants to become. That sounds so woo-woo and dramatic, but like that is kind of how it feels sometimes. Anyway, I was at Goodwill, as I often am, scrounging through the sheets, and I came across this absolutely stunning giant daffodil bedsheet. I mean, look at that. Those daffodils are almost the size of my face. I think, yeah, they legitimately are about the size of my hand, and I have pretty long fingers. I mean, you can't just walk away from a fabric like this. I love a very fun and warm and playful color palette, and I mean, this is that personified. This is so stunning. Obviously, I had to buy this sheet immediately. And then the question became, what do I make out of it? My biggest thing when deciding what to make out of this fabric was I really wanted something that would let this beautiful giant daffodil design really shine. I didn't want anything with too many seams or darts or pleats or anything that was going to cause me to cut too much into the fabric. This dress is really just a vehicle for this beautiful piece of art to be appreciated. This sheet is wasted on a bed. This needs to be out in public, getting the recognition and appreciation that it deserves. It's kind of heavy. This is actually making my arm a little bit sore. For this dress, I used the Annabelle dress by Pattern Cause Patterns. A big reason that I chose that pattern was because it has this gorgeous giant circle skirt. And also kind of loved the idea of the stems wrapping around and everything sort of connecting in the back of the dress. That seemed like kind of a fun choice to me. Now, again, this was one of those fabrics I absolutely loved and was terrified to use. And so after I cut the pieces, I did have this moment of panic where I was like, did I just ruin maybe the most amazing sheet I'll ever come across? But you know what? I don't think I did. I think this dress really looks straight out of a fairy tale. It's just very romantic and dreamy and feels like it belongs in almost an Alice in Wonderland-esque world, just wandering through gardens, drinking tea and playing croquet. Croquet. That's the word that I was looking for. I did make a couple of small alterations to this pattern. The first thing is that the neckline in the pattern is actually kind of deceptively low. Like, I didn't notice really when I was looking at pictures of the pattern. And so I did raise the neckline a little bit. And then I believe it just has spaghetti straps. I wanted this to be a fun little statement piece, so I added these giant bow straps. Another very small detail is I believe the pattern does have a ruffle on the bottom, but I did the ruffle a little bit differently. I did a double fold hem on the top and bottom of the ruffle, and then I ruffled it and added it to the outside of the skirt so that you get this fun sort of ruffle effect on the outside of the skirt as well. In a lot of ways, sewing is a solitary activity. I mean, most of the time I'm just up here in this little room listening to my audiobooks, cutting fabric and sewing pieces together. But in a lot of ways, it is a collaboration of different artists. You have the person who created the fabric, you have the person who made the pattern, and you have the sewist who's kind of the visionary to bring everything together and probably add their own little touch to it. And when I see a dress like this that is so stunning, it really makes me appreciate all of the different aspects that come together to create truly a little wearable piece of art. Now, here's the thing. I am hoping to release a sewing vlog for this garment next week. So if I show it to you and you like it, you have to come back next week to watch the sewing vlog, okay? Deal? Feel free to hit that subscribe button right now. Oh, and feel free to hit the like button too while you're down there. I know it's a small thing, but as a small creator, it really helps me get my videos out there and I appreciate it. Anyway, this next item is actually not a dress. So once again, there I was at the thrift store and I found what I believe is an upholstery fabric, but it attracted my attention because it is a yellow and orange floral, which, as you know, I am a sucker for. So I bought it and I decided to use it to make my dream 70s jumpsuit. Here it is. Everything about it just screams 70s to me, and I love it so much. This is the Rosie Utility Suit by Maiden Mary Patterns, with a few little tweaks to it. Mostly, I added some extra fabric at the bottom to make a nice little bell bottom for myself. I'm pretty sure this was an upholstery fabric because it's very stiff and structured. It certainly wasn't something that would drape or flow well, and so I wanted to make a more structured garment out of it. To me, the colors and everything in this just screamed 70s. I love everything about this, from the very functional pockets it has, to the adorable little collar, to again, the little bell bottoms that I sort of added. Now, this was kind of a tricky fabric to work with. I think it was kind of a loose weave, so it did fray very easily. I had to be kind of gentle with it as I was making this garment. But you know what? It all came together in the end. My only complaint about it is not a fault of the pattern or really anything that I can do that much about. And I know there has to be people watching who can relate to this, but I am a pear-shaped girly. My widest point is at my thighs. And so there's a considerable size difference between my thighs and my waist. Like, I'm typically buying a larger size in bottoms than I am in tops, which makes a jumpsuit a little bit difficult because I do like my clothes to be nice and tight at my waist, but at the same time, I gotta pull them up over my thighs. It's not really a big deal, but it is just a little bit looser at the waist than I would like it to be. And it's not like it's irredeemable. I think maybe I'm gonna try styling it with a belt. Potentially, I might have enough fabric to make kind of a matching belt situation. Outside of that, though, I'm very happy with how it turned out. It is very fun. It is very colorful. It sort of screams daydream believer, dancing queen. Gosh, what else? I talk a lot more about the fabric and the associations and the pattern and everything in the sewing blog, so I do recommend going to check that out when it comes out, which hopefully will be soon. Okay, thank you. And as a direct follow-up to the 70s jumpsuit of my dreams is an actual 70s dress. Well, not the dress itself, obviously, but I did make it using an authentic 70s pattern, which is actually a free download from SewlySlowly. Unfortunately, as is the case with vintage patterns, it's only available in one size. And I obviously did the maxi length, but I believe it does come with more options. I believe there's a mini length and there's also a version with sleeves. But I will link it down below if you're interested. If you think you can make it work, go try it out. It's great. I made this using an IKEA duvet cover, which again, I found at the thrift store. I'm obsessed with the little sailor collar on it. It's so cute, such a unique feature. To me, it almost has kind of a retro Palm Springs feel with the very vintage vibe and these gorgeous, giant, oversized yellow flowers. This kind of belongs like in some retro country club poolside with white and pink striped umbrellas and a mojito in one hand. Epitome of like bottled sunshine. The floral pattern is so bright and loud, but at the same time, the actual lines of the dress are very clean and straight and tailored. And I think that contrast gives it a little bit more of a sophisticated look, as opposed to making me look like I just bought a costume at Spirit of Halloween. It's just summery, it's fun, it's exciting, and it gives retro without being dated. And honestly, it's everything that I want to personify. It's very joy forward and I'm obsessed with it. Next is a fun little tiered mini dress that is from the same IKEA collection, but this one I actually made out of the pillowcases. And this is the Coco dress by Sew Manual. This is such a fun little mini dress for the summer. I love how light and airy and fun it is. I also made a little matching oversized scrunchie because I had just a little bit of fabric left and I wanted to do something fun with it. And to me, this is such a perfect beach dress. I've worn it a couple of times to go to the beach, just slipping it over my swimsuit. It's nice and loose and comfy. But you know, if I'm walking around, if we decide we want to go get something to eat afterward or something, I feel like I'm wearing an actual outfit. It has this beautiful little bias tape finishing on the neckline. I believe it has pockets too. Yeah, it does. That's always fun. I added some elastic to the back of mine. You don't have to, that's not in the pattern. I just wanted it a little bit more fitted, but no hassle. So I just threw a little bit of elastic there. If you're looking for a fun, easy, breezy mini dress for the summer, I do highly recommend this. Super cute, very easy. Honestly, if you're a beginner, this is probably a great project. You have to do some ruffling and you do kind of have to make bias tape, but the instructions walk you through it. I think you can figure it out. And overall, very fun little sundress, and I highly recommend it. So this next pattern was my most used dress pattern this year. I made this pattern 3 times. This is the Emma dress by Fried Lace. One of the best things about this dress is the fact that it's made entirely out of princess seams. So if you're a beginner sewist, truly, 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 I cannot recommend this pattern enough. Essentially, you just cut out 4 or 5 panels, sew them together, add some straps, add some facing, hem it, and that's it. It is as simple as a dress can be, and it looks so timeless and so elegant. It's a testament to the pattern that all 3 dresses have very different vibes. So this one I made out of a thrifted Ralph Lauren bedsheet. Let me tell you, I felt a lot of pressure with this because there are so many elements to this bedsheet that I was in love with. I love the buttery yellow and white stripes. I love the little roses scattered all over it. I wanted a dress that would really do it honor, and this dress absolutely has held up. Obviously, I added a little blue bow on it. I just thought that was kind of a fun little pop of color. This Ralph Lauren version never fails to make me feel like an American princess. Ralph Lauren really has mastered kind of that air of American royalty. And that's part of what I love about his designs. I also made this hot pink polka dot version, which I think has such a fun little vintage vibe. I feel like I'm on my way down to like a sock hop or to the malt shop to get a chocolate shake or something every time I wear this. I will say one thing though, I've been debating if I want to add a little ruffle to the bottom of it or keep it kind of this midi length. I'm still on the fence. I do still have some of this fabric left. So if you think that it would look better with a ruffle, or if you like it better how it is, let me know. I've made this, I've worn it several times, and I still can't get the idea of a ruffle out of my head. but I'm also not sure I'm committed to it. So I'd love to know what you think. But overall, this has a very bright and timeless feel to me. And finally, we have this butter yellow version, which I made during my Sewing Summer Wardrobe Essentials video. I made this to be kind of the quintessential go-to summer dress, you know, when you want to throw something on and maybe you style it down a little bit by adding like a button down as a layer and a nice tote bag and going down to the farmer's market. Or, you know, maybe you dress it up with some nice jewelry and heels and go out for a fun date night. Regardless, this was meant to be just sort of an easy breezy summer dress that works for pretty much any occasion. I think it accomplishes that. By the way, I was wearing this out once and a bunch of my friends started teasing me like, oh, we could see you all the way across the parking lot. And I was like, have you met me? This butter yellow is basically beige for me. One small alteration that I did make for this version, so the pattern itself is a midi dress, but I extended this one by just a few inches to make it a maxi. And then for this version, as well as the polka dot version, I added some adjustable straps as well, just to give it more of a sundress feel. And you know, an adjustable strap's always nice. I'm sorry, halter tops look so bad on the hanger. I'll have try on footage in a second. This is the Aurora Dress by Friedleys, and it is both my pride and joy and one of the biggest heartbreaks of my life. Let me explain. If you look at the pictures of the pattern on the website versus what I made, they actually look like different patterns. I hacked this fairly significantly. I changed the neckline to make it a halter top. I changed the straps, obviously, and I also made it a double-tiered skirt. To me, it just has a very sort of Y2K summer vacation kind of feel. It just has kind of that teen summer rom-com, fun, flirty sort of feel. I feel like I need to pair it with like some platform flip-flops and walk on down to Claire's for some accessories. I think that I could play an extra in the Aquamarine movie in this. Like, it just feels like one of those dresses you put on after a day at the beach when you have a little bit of sunburn on your nose and you want to just go get a soft serve and walk along the boardwalk at sunset. I also love the drop waist. That's a detail that I want to make more of. It's probably because I have kind of a long torso, but personally, I love a drop waist style on me. Now, the reason it is a little bit heartbreaking, when I initially like basted in the zipper and put it on, it was far too big. So I did a few iterations where I was kind of taking it in the back and basting in the zipper to see how it fit. And finally, I was like, okay, I think it's at a good place. I sewed in the zipper for real. And I tried to put it on and it was too tight. And I panicked. I think that I might have enough fabric that I could seam rip and make it a little bit bigger so that I could actually put the zipper in properly. But as of right now, the zipper is completely exposed. So I did wear it out once or twice because I do genuinely love it. But as a sewist, I feel like an exposed, invisible zipper like this is like having toilet paper like stuck to your pants or something like that. I don't even know if it's something that like a normal person would really notice or care about, because I had the exact same problem with one of my Easter dresses one year, and it was a gorgeous dress. Everyone said how much they liked it, and of course I felt compelled to tell them like, thanks, but like you can see my zipper. One of my cousins was like, Allie, I didn't know you were that kind of girl. Like, they were all just making fun of me because it's like, okay, and so again, I don't know if it's something a normal person would really notice or care about, but as a sewist, I notice it and I care about it. And so yeah, that's something that I'm going to try to fix so that I can actually wear this with the pride that it deserves, because it is such a gorgeous dress and I do love this style and everything about it so much. Next up, this is the Ygritte Dress by Vicky Sews. At least I'm choosing to pronounce it like that. I'll throw it up here. I really don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. This dress I made during my Sewing an East Coast Summer Wardrobe video, and this was the piece of clothing that I struggled with the most. We fought. There was one point where I gave up on the instructions completely and just reverse engineered what I thought I was supposed to do, which actually turned out pretty well, thankfully. Sorry, I feel like I have something in my hair. But I think I said this in the video and I really mean it. I'm glad that I was filming myself making it, because otherwise I think I might have given up on it, which would have been such a shame, because I am so incredibly proud that I made this dress. I truly adore this dress. I think that it's such a fun kind of modern take on sort of like a 70s tennis dress. I love that it's a halter top, but you also have this sophisticated little collar, kind of giving country club vibes. I love the open back. And then instead of just an all the way around pleated skirt, I love that you have these pleated panels on the side. I think that's such a fun and very modern touch. Obviously, made it in butter yellow. Was obsessed with that this past year, still am obsessed. Expect to see a lot of this color in my 2026 sewing recap. To me, this is a very vintage inspired piece of clothing, but it still reads as extremely modern and trendy, but in a way that I don't think is going to go out of style. I made this for our family vacation to St. Simons, Georgia, and this was so perfect. We're very active while we're there, and so having a dress that feels like activewear was very appropriate. We pretty much just bike everywhere on the island. We love to walk along the beach. We love to wander around downtown. And this was just the perfect outfit for that. Activewear has become such a big kind of clothing genre. I'll go grab a lunch at Cava, which is like Mediterranean bowls, and I see girls there in like their Target workout outfits. And so I love that this sort of draws inspiration from that while still looking just very classy and sophisticated. Anyway, like I said, it was a bit of a struggle to sew, and it is not without its flaws. One thing that I promise you no one has ever or will ever notice, but that does bug me, is for some reason, when I put the pieces together, the hems were all like different lengths. Where I stitched the hem in the front is, I don't know, like maybe a centimeter from the bottom, whereas on the pleated panels, I don't even know if you can see it, but it's much, much higher. The stitching's right here. And I do actually wish the skirt was just a little bit longer in the back because it is kind of short. And if I wear shorts under it, it's fine, which I'm definitely doing if I'm being a little bit more active. But I do feel like I am a little bit at risk of flashing. So something to be aware of if you make the pattern. Another thing I messed up was the buttonholes. For some reason, these buttonholes were a struggle, and you really can't see it when it's buttoned. So like, it doesn't bug me enough to actually fix it. So that buttonhole is kind of a mess. This one, this is on the underside, so really no one sees it. But I don't know what happened there. That was unfortunate. But overall, I am extremely proud of this. It was not an easy project, and I made it in just 2 days, which is kind of wild and insane and unhinged, actually. And that's how I ended up making more than 90 pieces of clothing this year, I guess. Next up was my Halloween costume this year. I made myself a little 60s flight attendant costume for Halloween. I made a little hat to go with it. There was a suitcase that someone left out by their trash can that I hoarded like a little raccoon, and I painted a logo for my fake little airline on it. Oh, also Darcy was a pilot, so I mean, I couldn't really get him to stay in his costume, but that was the cutest thing ever. But this dress is so cute. This is an authentic 60s mini dress that I bought from SewlySlowly. You can very clearly see it has that mod look to it, just with the color blocking, with the cut of the dress. It has the sort of, futuristic sci-fi mod look that so many outfits in this time period did. With these colors, it does look very costumey, but I do kind of want to make another version with slightly more muted colors that feels a little bit more appropriate to wear just out and about. I drew a lot of inspiration from kind of the iconic Pan Am outfits with the very bright color blocking and go-go boots, of course. I actually did a full sewing vlog for this costume where I actually went into some of the history of flight attendants because I am a nerd. I absolutely love history. My mom used to teach history, and so every vacation I took growing up, we always had some sort of historic tour tied to it. We also just had a lot of history books around the house, and I was a little bookworm who would read anything she could get her grubby little hands on, and so read a lot of history growing up. So I had a lot of fun doing research into kind of the impacts that flight attendants had on women in the workforce and what the experience was actually like for them. And my mom, who obviously is also a big history nerd, absolutely loves that video. She was very disappointed that it did not do well. So if you want to make her happy, go watch that video. And if you don't, then it means you hate my mom. So I'm kidding, obviously, but yeah, feel free to go check out that video. Next up, another 70s inspired dress. What a surprise. I made this using the Knit Mini pattern by Brandy Joanne. I saw it and was immediately like, oh, obviously I have to make that. This is another fabric that I found at the thrift store. It is a stretchy fabric. I don't think this really shows up on camera, but the stripes actually have quite a bit of texture to them. The dark brown stripes specifically sort of stand out a little bit, almost like they're ribbed, but the whole thing isn't, if that makes sense. Anyway, obviously with the color and pattern of this fabric, I had to make something 70s inspired. Like, come on, how perfect is this? I did make some small alterations to the pattern. First, Obviously, you can probably predict this if you have watched any of my videos. I made the bell sleeves more dramatic. The pattern does have a little bit of a bell sleeve, but when I tried it on, I was like, unfortunately, I just need more. I demand a lot of my sleeves. Seam ripped the sleeves and just added a little extra triangle of fabric to give myself a little bit more of a bell sleeve. And then the other alteration I made was this dress has a very high neckline, which I'm not quite sure what it is, but I typically don't like high necklines on. Something about a high neckline, I feel like it makes me look bigger. So I did cut the neckline to be just a little bit lower and a little bit wider. And I just like how that looked more. But yeah, I think this is such a fun 70s inspired dress. I feel like such a fun little go-go girl, like Nancy Sinatra. These boots were made for walking. It's so perfect for kind of fall, cooler weather. And it just has kind of a charming mod quality to it that makes me want to listen to ABBA. So this past year, I decided to set a little speed sewing challenge for myself. I wanted to see if I could sew an entire dress while my husband was at the gym. And you know what? I didn't. But I did get most of it done. So by the time he was showered and actually ready to head out to where we were going that day, I was all set. This is another thing that might explain how I ended up making so many items of clothing this year. But anyway, this was that dress. And I'm sorry, once again, it is a halter top. It does not look good on the hanger. This is the Byward dress by Stitch Witch Patterns. And if you watched part 1, you might be a little surprised to learn that I actually love this dress. If you didn't see part 1, I made a leopard print set that I don't really like. And a lot of people commenting kind of were suggesting that maybe it was just like the colors or something that I didn't like, which could be true. Maybe I just didn't like it in that particular garment. But in this dress, I absolutely love it. I really enjoy this as kind of a neutral to play with. So I actually really love wearing it with sort of light greens and sort of teal tones. I think that they really pop against this dark brown. I love styling it with like a light green headband and some little sunglasses. It feels very Jackie O to me. I feel very iconic. I love the fit of this dress. I made the skirt flare out just a little bit more so that I had a little bit more mobility and I don't have to worry about it riding up to my belly button every time I sit down. I think that you can use this dress with so many different fabrics to create a really classy outfit that works for so many different occasions. I think if you made this in a plain black, it would be a great little black dress. If you make it in a more colorful fabric, it's a great little summer dress. I adore the fact that it has an open back. I think that gives it a little bit more of an elegant look to it. And I feel very fierce when I wear this. This is the most romantic dress in the world. You know, when you like look at your partner and you're like, they're so amazing. I can't believe that they chose me and that I get to spend my life with them. That's how I feel about this dress, I'm gonna be honest. This is the Blueberry Puff Dress by Daria Pattern Making, and it is a cottagecore dream come true. I cannot look at this dress without imagining wandering through the French countryside with a basket of wildflowers or getting lost in some enchanted castle. It is so dreamy, so ethereal, just truly one of the most beautiful dresses in existence. So this was actually my Valentine's Day dress last year, and I got so many compliments on it. Some woman, we were just passing on the sidewalk, and she looked at me and she said, "Now that is a Valentine's Day dress." And honestly, I couldn't agree more. This dress just screams main character rom-com lead energy. Every single detail of this dress is exactly in my style. From the adorable milkmaid bodice to the full circle skirt with the giant ruffle. Perfect for twirling, by the way. It's actually impossible not to in this dress. And the triple puff sleeves. Listen, if you don't know by now how much I love a big dramatic statement sleeve, then what are you doing here? Because clearly you have not listened to a word I've said at all. It just feels like a mix between like cottagecore and like medieval Renaissance. And I'm very glad I made it in a red because I actually wore this a lot during the holiday season as well. It was very fun, styled with like some boots and some like little like star earrings and things like that. But you know, maybe I'll make it in a little bit of a lighter floral and truly be living my cottagecore dreams as well. I know it is a lot together, but even if that isn't your thing, I think there's a lot of hacks you can do to make it a little bit more your style, but still a very unique and beautiful piece. So you can make it and maybe just do like a simple one puff sleeve, or you could do a little bit more of like a straight skirt with it to give it a little bit more of a sophisticated feel. But I certainly love it exactly like this. This dress was actually the last thing that I made in 2025. This is a slightly hacked version of the Buffy dress by Vicky Sows. The only hack I made, in quotes, because it's really not that big of a deal, is the Buffy dress is a mini dress and I just extended it to a maxi. There was an ad that I kept seeing at Christmas time with a simple red polka dot dress, and then the woman in the ad was wearing this like white fluffy jacket over it. And I thought that was so cute. I thought that was such a fun holiday look and I really wanted to recreate that. So I did make the dress. However, I never got around to making the jacket, which I might have to correct that because I think that's just sort of a fun piece to have in my closet. But anyway, I think that this is another very classic, timeless piece. It's a very simple, straight silhouette. It's very nicely tailored. It has a little slit on the side. It adds a little bit of sass, a little bit of fun. And again, I know that polka dots were kind of trendy this past year, but they're also just a very classic pattern, you know? To me, it's a little bit like saying like, oh, leopard print is a trend. Like, yeah, there are times when it's more or less popular, but like, it's never really out of style, you know? It's not like people are gonna think you're cringe or chuggy or whatever because you wore a leopard print ever. Like, just give it a few months, like a year or two tops, and it'll be back around again. But yeah, I think you wear like some fun tights underneath, maybe some boots, and like a big oversized faux fur coat. And this is a very fun holiday look. At the same time, if you take away the layers and just wear it with like some strappy sandals and nice jewelry, you have a very classy summer piece. Or maybe like a cool spring night, you wear a jean jacket over it and some sneakers, and you have a very effortless, cool looking outfit. I just think that it's very versatile, very classic, and very timeless. And this is not an especially difficult pattern either. So keep that in mind. All right, and we have another halter top. So again, sorry, this looks terrible on the hanger. But this is the Juliette Dress by Friedleys. It just has such a fun, beachy, boho vibe to it inherently. I love how it has all of these gorgeous tiers to it. It gives it a very flowy and fun vibe. You have a very simple halter top and then this gorgeous open back. It just screams nice day at the beach, you know? It's a great dress to slip on if you're just going for like a little sunset stroll on the beach. Maybe after a day where you've been outside and you're like a little bit sunburned and you don't want too much fabric touching you. It just has sort of that effortless island living kind of feel to it. And this, of course, is another sheet that I thrifted. This is like a Opal House Jungalow collab with Target, I believe. I love the pattern and the colors in this so much. I love the warm tones of the brown. I love the little lilac and hot pink in it. Again, it just screams beachy summer vibe. And especially if you pair it with some nice jewelry, you have a very put together beach vacation look. Now, I did have one pretty big problem actually while I was making this pattern. Of course, I cut everything out according to the directions, but when I tried it on, the bodice cups were a little small for my liking. So it actually took me a few iterations of kind of recutting it to figure out a size that I was comfortable with. And honestly, I am still a little torn as to whether I should make them a little bigger or what exactly I should do with them, which breaks my heart because this is such a beautiful dress. And as someone who lives not too far from the beach, I would love to have this a little bit more in my rotation than I'm currently comfortable with. But outside of that, it just screams immaculate summer vibes and is a great summer wardrobe staple. This dress was another part of my sewing an East Coast summer wardrobe, and just looking at it makes me so happy, honestly. I made this using the Basque Dress by Stitch Witch Patterns. And I made it out of a Ralph Lauren bedsheet that I thrifted, which again, Ralph Lauren to me just kind of screams like old money coastal summer kind of vibes, which made it perfect for an East Coast summer wardrobe. I bought this at Goodwill and they didn't have the full bed set. All I could find was the fitted sheet. And at the edges of it, it's a little bit of a darker red. So I do think that this sheet was just a little bit worn down and the color faded a little bit. But I'm actually so fine with that. I think that it's such a beautiful, just on the pinkish side of kind of a brick red. The white pinstripes are just so classic and classy. I added this scalloped lace around the neckline, which I think just elevates the dress a little bit, gives it a little bit more of a sophisticated look, and just makes it look a little more complete and finished, I think. Attention to little details like that, I think, really go a long way. And then along the hemline, I actually added the exact same lace, but the other side of the lace. So it looks like a little bit more of a traditional lace on the bottom. And I'm so happy with how this turned out. I took it down to the beach one morning and did kind of an early morning beach photo shoot. I think they turned out so beautifully. The dress makes me feel like I just stepped out of a New England summer postcard. And I think it does a really good job of kind of keeping the right balance between very preppy and classic, but also cute and romantic. And if you're looking for just a little summer mini dress to go twirling around on the dunes early in the morning, I do recommend this. Actually, don't do it on the dunes. That's bad for the sand and stuff like that. But like around the dunes, sure, go for it. And shifting vibes just slightly. Like I said, that last dress gives me very New England summer vibes. This to me is very Southern summer vibes. Every time I look at this fabric, I think of a Georgia peach. Specifically, whenever we went and visited my Nana in New York in the summer, she would always have this peach ice cream for us. And that's what I think of every single time I look at this dress. This is the Riviera dress by Maid and Mary Patterns. And I made it, of course, out of a thrifted bedsheet. It's so funny when I think about finding these fabrics, a lot of times it does feel like a rom-com moment for me. Like I just walk into the thrift store and lock eyes with the fabric and I immediately know that we're destined to be together. And that was very much how I felt with this fabric. I love the very warm, peachy pinks in it. Even the little pops of sort of olive green in the leaves. I love the watercolor look of the florals. Everything about it just screams Southern summer to me. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to make with this fabric, I immediately knew that I wanted to do something to sort of invoke the look of kind of a traditional 1950s housewife. But at the same time, this fabric is so beautifully feminine. I didn't want it to be too ultra traditional. You know, that felt a little bit too sugary sweet. The Riviera dress, in my opinion, does a beautiful job of kind of invoking that very traditional 1950s dress look. But at the same time, it has details that keep it looking very modern. For example, I love the little corset feel to the bodice. That certainly has been very, very popular. And I also love that it does these ruffled side panels and kind of a dropped waist. It keeps it looking modern, but at the same time, I still absolutely feel like I could walk into a vintage garden party in this dress and feel right at home. It's a very soft, kind of traditionally feminine feel, but in a way that still feels kind of new and exciting. She's also a lot of fun to twirl in, which is huge for any dress. Overall, I can just picture myself leaning over the rails of a white front porch, sipping a lemonade while wearing this dress. And that's it, friends. We have reached the end of this trilogy. I don't know if it was as epic as Return of the King, but I do kind of feel like I would appreciate some eagles swooping in and just carrying me away while someone else finishes the editing for this video. If you've been here the whole time, I so appreciate you. I am so glad that so many people seem to enjoy watching me show off all of my creations. There was one person who commented that she watched it after she got off a hospital shift in the freezing weather where she was getting yelled at by families. And the idea that any of these videos could just make even one person's day a little bit better truly means the world to me. Now, if you have not watched the other parts, I would encourage you to go back and watch them. If you are interested in seeing more unhinged sewing chaos, please subscribe. I do have some sewing vlogs that I'm planning to put out very soon. One of my goals for 2026 is to be posting more to YouTube. I only started my channel a couple of months ago, and I am so grateful for every person who's watched, who's left a kind comment, who's subscribed. I so appreciate you, and I hope that I can continue entertaining you in this new year. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you are too. So if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button. I know it's a small thing, but it does really help me out. And yeah, I appreciate you being here, and I hope you'll stick around for the next one. Until then, have a wonderful day. Bye.